Very happy to be able to welcome to the podcast today Penny Slater, and in the middle of purchasing her first house as part of her taper. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Nothing like moving and doing an Ironman build at the same time.
Have you contributed to lifting boxes and moving everything that goes with it, or have you let your wife do all of that? How have you shared the responsibility of the move?
Well, my wife has definitely taken on the majority of it. I helped for one afternoon after a long run, and I was pretty blasted the next day. So, yeah, she took on all the jobs this weekend of actually making our house livable. So, yeah,
Okay.
it always seems to fall right before a race that something like this happens. But yes, I'm very lucky that I have her so we can get a mortgage and also so we can move house.
The fickle nature. In fact, I think there was a Triathlete magazine article just posted today or the other day talking about how pros generate income. And we were talking before we started recording, and it's by no means a guaranteed salary, is it?
No, definitely not. It fluctuates a lot with your performance, and yeah, I don't know. So I'm glad I've locked someone in who has a stable job anyway.
Now, this coming weekend here in New Zealand is Xterra Rotorua. Take me back. You're an off-road girl to start with, weren't you?
Yeah, through and through. That's kind of how I discovered triathlon. I just had a friend who got into mountain biking, and I sort of followed her, and then realized there was this thing called Xterra, and like cross triathlon. And so I've done Xterra Rotorua a number of times, and that's actually how I know Hannah from all the way back in the day, Hannah Berry.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's kind of my roots. I loved it. I've always loved being out in nature, and when I was younger, I was had a lot more. I was a bit more radical and didn't have much self-preservation, so I was fine to go downhill as fast as possible on a mountain bike. But it was a great intro to the sport, and I loved it. The circuit was great, and there was great people in it too.
Yeah, well, if it's not dealing with health issues, you're definitely one mountain bike away from a physical injury, aren't you? I mean, I can tell you freely, I coach Jack Moody here in New Zealand, and literally this week's podcast, he's just got married and he's just fallen off his mountain bike and dislocated his shoulder. So do you have any gory injuries from your Xterra days?
Yeah, I had a pretty bad one. Well, I had two bad ones. One, I was in a mountain bike race like just before I think I was about to go to Europe. And I was on the road, like riding with another girl, and we were getting close to the finish. And this was for third and fourth place. And I didn't realize we had a really big left-hand turn coming up, and it like came up really quickly, and we were on the road going like 45 k's an hour, and volunteers stepped down in front of us to try and get us to turn because we both hadn't seen it anyways, and I just reacted on instinct, and I slammed my front brake on, and I just like catapulted over the handlebars and then proceeded to skid on my face for the next 2 meters on the asphalt. So I've still got a chipped tooth and a big scar on my lip from that one. And then we were about 5 hours from home. So I was, on concussion watch all night and driving home. Actually our car broke down. So our car ended up on the back of a big lorry, and we were in the cab with this big truck driver, two of us across the front. The next day, while I had a half smashed up face and concussion. So, yeah.
Okay, so like touch wood, after last year, a few struggles with training and so forth. At least you're not dealing with like facial reconstruction.
Yeah, definitely. I'm much more mellow these days. I actually just have a gravel bike now, so I don't go off anything that has too much drop or rocks on it these days.
Okay, fair enough. No, so you reckon never again, or would you reckon there'd be one more, Xterra in your future?
It's probably one more. If there was ever to be one, it would probably be Rotorua because I love it there.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I would have to get a mountain bike first. So maybe we'll see.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's worry about paying the mortgage before we go and splash out on a new mountain bike. When did you was it about 2017? No, when did you start to just firstly dabble in the middle distance and long course racing?
Not actually till 2019, or maybe I
19.
did. I might have tried to do husky long course, but I think I DNF'd. I got rhabdo doing that because I had no idea what I was doing with nutrition and stuff. So I was in second place at K from the line, and I just fell over, and then I was still trying to crawl, and my coach was there and was like, "What are you doing?" So I'd say my proper debut was in 2019.
Okay, so I didn't realize this podcast was actually going to be what not to do in triathlon.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've done
So
basically every mistake under the sun I've done, I reckon.
okay, so have you been studying all along? So sports science, part of your academic life?
Yeah, so I initially actually started in exercise physiology, and then I transferred into exercise science and then secondary education. I come from a family of teachers. And
Okay.
then I started teaching in 2020, so like kind of COVID year. And so I worked for about 18 months then teaching. And I was like, when I finished uni, I was like, I'm never going back. Like, that's it, I'm done. And incidentally, I went like full time in 2021, and yeah, that's when I sort of had my diagnosis of REDS, and things kind of started going downhill for me. And I was like, what the heck is this thing? I can't believe I hadn't heard of it before, like considering my exercise science background. Well, I had heard of it, but not to the depths really of what it was
Yeah.
and how much it could affect you. So then I just enrolled in like a research program just to learn the skills of how to research, because I thought that it was something really important to know about. And then, yeah, from that's kind of how it all snowballed. And then a year later, I was kind of getting headhunted to do a PhD on it by my university.
So never again, no more academia. So let's just jump in, do a PhD, which we all know a PhD could put you into REDS even without exercise.
Definitely. But the good thing about research is it's like, undergraduate degrees are important for learning the foundations of everything. But, there's subjects that you do where you're not really that interested in what's going on. You're just kind of getting through it so you can get your degree. But this is like everything was geared towards the one thing I wanted to do, and it's basically your special interest, right? This PhD
Yeah.
is my special interest. So it makes it much more easy to do the research
Yeah.
and do the annoying hard things, but it's like ultimately I'm interested in everything I'm doing, so it definitely makes it much easier to be
Yeah.
motivated.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. Like, as you got into the long course racing, because short course, especially off-road racing, the physiology behind it is completely different to the demands of middle distance and long course racing. But you obviously quite like the long course, and it almost like the longer it went, the better, especially given, how competent you were in the marathon at the end of an Ironman. Would you say around about 2023 you started to see sort of real breakthroughs at an international level?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like 2023 was actually the year where I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like this can be my job. Um,
Yep.
yeah, so that was definitely, I came third in Ironman South Africa that year. And yeah, that was kind of the start of me realizing, that I was good, especially at the full distance stuff, because like I mentioned
Yeah.
before, when I did my first full distance in 2021 at Cairns, and I came fourth there. But then, had my first stress fracture, and then it was literally basically 18 months of trying to get back from that.
Yeah.
And then 2023 was like everything had settled, and me and my coach Jackie Allen at the time had both learnt a lot and were much more across like fueling and programming for that. So yeah, it was definitely a breakout year for me.
Jackie Allen was an ex-Stereo athlete, wasn't she? And she was coaching you for the middle and long distance. She was learning as much as you were at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so she actually originally started in the ITU scene, and she was, you know, she trained a lot with Non and was like on the British team, and then got into Xterra. But yeah, it was kind of, I went to her. She literally well, it's actually kind of crazy because she literally coached me to being a professional athlete, which is pretty crazy coming from, you know, she just had a small coaching business, and I went to her in 2016, or I think it was. And yeah, she literally coached me from being like an okay Xterra athlete to all the way to that 2023 season where I had those really good performances. Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2023, lots of podiums. You know, you mentioned South Africa getting third, but also Cairns getting third as well. And it's really awesome to hear that your intention is to, you know, go to South Africa shortly and then, you know, return to Cairns, a race that you've got some unfinished business at. But I also remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to just use my memory here. You actually had a really decent Kona. And was it an early drafting penalty on the bike that you overcame and still ran up into 13th place? Was it drafting?
Yeah. Well, it was a slingshot. So yeah, because I clarified right at the end of the race. Yeah. So yeah, I got that in like the first 20 Ks. Of the bike, which I actually had no idea at the time that it was for drafting or slingshotting, because I was was being super cautious of it, because it was literally like obviously a championship race and I didn't want a penalty. But anyways, I am still from that race, like that's actually probably one of my proudest races, because I can't believe how cool and collected. Like I was a bit pissed off at the start, but then I just like took my penalty and then just slowly rode back up the field. And then I have this memory of I came off the bike and I was like really chilled on Alihi Drive. And then I saw my wife at the top of Palani and was like, all right, I'll see you in a couple of hours, babe. And she was like, okay, I knew when you said that to me that you were going to run like into the prize money at least. But it's kind of one of those things that you think, God, I wonder what would have happened that day if I hadn't have got the penalty. But anyways, you can't, you know, that's just the way it goes. But it was still, a really great, one of the, great performances at Kona for me. Well, the only good performance, actually. So I'll take that one.
Hold on a second. What do you mean the only good performance? Well, at Kona, but at World Kona, Championship.
Anyway.
At World Championship level. And at that time, you know, at that Kona in particular, like a 3:08 marathon was very comparable on the day at that particular race. And like you say, off a very decent, solid bike split, which I'm sure would have been a lot of solo riding.
I was literally by myself like the whole bike, especially once I had that penalty, or I was just overtaking people on the way back, you know. I think I did 4:45 that day, maybe, or something.
No, 4:47. So, I'm not going to give you that extra 2 minutes. No, you can't have those.
Sorry. It's crazy even how much it's got quicker, though, in the last 2 years, isn't it? Just like, because that would not even cut it these days. But it was good, especially being pretty young, and I was on a pretty average setup back then too. So,
well, you went under 9 hours, you know, like and like you say, but in 2023, going under 9 hours, 13th at Kona, that's awesome. But you're right. We then get the Pro Series announced, and you did really well in it, but the level of competition since 2023 has just elevated unbelievably, hasn't it? But still, 2024 was another really strong year for you, finishing well in the Pro Series, bettering your World Championship finishing place as well by getting 7th in Nice. Running like basically a 3-hour flat marathon and having a really good performance there. But I think I saw an article that you wrote towards the back end of 2024 that you're certainly coming in on fumes towards the back end of that year. But it was still a good year. And you talk about the motivation that you gain from results proving that you can be a professional. Financially, that would have been a great year for you as well, 2024.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I also spent a lot of money that year because I spent 6 weeks in Nice before the World
Yeah.
Championships to try and make sure I was across the course, which obviously paid off well. But yeah, that definitely was. And that was, I would say that's the first year, because the 2023, I was like, oh God, I actually made some money this year. I'm not in the minuses. And then 2024, I was like, actually made some good money. But yeah, it was still like 2024 is a weird one because I had a standout performance at Texas, which I wasn't expecting. But then I actually raced that race with a grade 2 or 3 grade 3 stressing in my femur. And so then I spent the middle half of the year trying to get back, and then got back, but I was on the edge going into Nice, I think, and then after Nice, I was just completely cooked pretty much.
Yeah. When you look back at the stress fractures reactions that you had through that phase, can you pinpoint where you think they were coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I was with Jackie to the end of 2023, and together she sort of said to me, that your what'd she say? She said she thought she'd reach capacity of how far she could take me as an athlete. Like that was the level of her knowledge, which, I mean, to just even have a coach that, she's also one of my best friends, but to have a coach that is mature enough to realize that. We decided we would look for a coach together, and then I made a coaching change at the start of 2024, which definitely was a contributing factor to how well I did at Texas. But then it was just I think for how my body works and my history of reds, especially, was it just wasn't conducive to longevity for me. And I think that's why I had some great performances, but I was very up and down. And then also sort of paid for it in last year, I think, as well. Just with that, I really pushed myself to the limits that year and probably beyond.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even in a severe caloric deficit or even a mild caloric deficit, performance can still trend in the right direction while health's going in the wrong direction. And that can really be misleading at times, can't it?
Yeah, of course, definitely. And that's I say that to a lot of people because, from my research, people always message me and asking me for advice and stuff like that. And it's like you get that 3-month window, I think, when you're in that caloric deficit of, the performance window, and you'll go potentially could have a really good performance, but then, you can kind of fall off the cliff. And that's literally happened to me every time. And I've got a stressy at the end of it. And, now, with my new coach, Liz, that I've been working with since March 2023, I just said to her, I would prefer to be 5% worse and not injured and have good health than be on the limit all the time and be at risk of getting a bone stress injury. That calorie deficit, and then when your load's really high and you have high intensity run sessions, for me, that's just like a killer combo. For most people, it's a killer combo, and a recipe for disaster, really.
No, 100%. You had to really work hard over the course of the back end of 2024 and a lot of 2025 to get everything back into balance.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I raced at the back end of 2024, and those performances were pretty lackluster still, because I came back from Nice and got straight back into training, basically. And in hindsight, I definitely should have appreciated that performance more and been happy with it, and just kind of taken a bit of a rest and recalibrate. But part of me was also like, oh, I could come back and then try and win these races at the end of the year and get a better score in the Pro Series. But yeah, that wasn't to be. And then so I was really pretty flat actually at the end of 2024, which is kind of crazy considering I probably had what would be on paper my best year ever.
Yeah.
And then 2025, I started the year on a training camp in Falls Creek. And then that was kind of actually towards the end of that, got another stress reaction in my femur, which I was able to pick up quite early. So it was only a grade 1. And that's sort of when I decided to make a coaching change. And so, yeah, that was kind of, I tried to do Geelong, and then that was after I'd had the stressing. I hadn't been running. So, and I actually got sick before. And then, yeah, sort of that's when I was looking for a new coach and sort of got onto Liz Blatchford, who's now coaching me. And I basically say to her all the time, I came to her in basically the worst condition an athlete can come to you in. I was overtrained, I was injured, and I actually like through 2 weeks into her coaching me got pneumonia. So yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I knew this podcast was going to be about how to find the answers to a heck of a lot of problems. But that's an interesting, and I'm glad Liz could see past where you're at in that moment and could see the potential underneath that, because you don't, get a top 10 at a world champs and as high up as 7th and finish on multiple podiums and also finish so well up in the Pro Series if the raw materials aren't there, but they just need to be kept healthy enough and consistently healthy enough for them to get back to that kind of performance level.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I reckon that's why I had such a good and consistent year in 2023, because I had I hit a kangaroo and had a back crash. But apart from that, I had like no.
Of course you did.
Of course
you did.
Yeah. As you do in Australia. Now that I'm saying all these things, I'm like, wow, is there something I'm a bit prone.
I was just going, what's next? But also, I also think that, the advent of the Pro Series. I mean, you're a pro that sort of started just before that came along, and then it's come along. I mean, man, it made people chase, didn't it, as well? So there's that extra pressure because you get a good year financially. There's even chances to race in the T100 and be involved in the PTO. So, I mean, it's hard not to be quite intoxicated by that. And it really does ask for either a lot of travel or racing basically most of the year.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's the trap I fell into last year. Like, I didn't fully appreciate how much having pneumonia would knock me around and the repercussions of that after having to have like multiple rounds of antibiotics and then coming back and racing Cairns. And because I actually went into Cairns I got sick, and then I managed to have like a good 4 weeks into Cairns, and then I raced pretty well at Cairns. Like I had a great run. I didn't ride very well, but for where I was at, I was like pretty happy with that. And I thought that would be like the momentum builder for me for the rest of the year. But in reality, it was actually, like kind of my undoing after that, because I got caught up in chasing the Pro Series. I went to Swansea 3 weeks later, and then I DNF'd there because I was had really bad GI distress and got pulled off the course on the run because I overheated. But then the weekend after that, I was racing Lake Placid, so I raced Lake Placid, and obviously that's not good for you when you had heat stress the week before, and then you're trying to race a full Ironman and had GI distress again, and then it just kind of snowballed, and this GI distress, which we took so long to figure out, like after Kona, which I DNF'd for those that don't know. It was just just trying to take some time off and trying to figure out what the heck was going on, because I just felt I was feeling so like my body wasn't adapting to the training as well as it usually was. Like I wasn't recovering like my tendons were all like hurting in the morning, and it was just and then I was just thinking, you know, am I just weak in my mind, you know, like I just haven't got what it takes anymore, like maybe I just don't have what it takes, which was really hard, like, and then, you know, the only thing that kept me through going through that and trying to figure it out was like, well, I'm not going to give up. Like, I still love this sport and it's what I want to do. So what's your option? You can just like wallow around, or you can just try and take small steps in the right direction to get back to some semblance of the athlete that I was. And, you know, like Liz was, you know, she's always believed me throughout. She knows what I'm capable of. Like, she can see it in training and she can see it in my mentality. And that's the same with my wife, Lily. She knows, and she, has been like extremely supportive of everything, even when I haven't been bringing money home to keep the house going. But last year was the hardest ever, really.
We talked about that off air, you know. This I think I said to you that triathlete.com have just put an article up, and it talks about how pro triathletes make money, and nothing's guaranteed. You have a great year, especially in this era where the money has become more available if you do well in the pro series or T100, and people are hearing these prize purses that are going around. But you know, you've got to stay healthy and you've got to be able to perform regularly and consistently. And we've seen a number of athletes who've had one great year and then the next year they've struggled as a result of it. And it's for a variety of reasons. It might be injury, it might be illness. You know, people go to their off season and then it takes them a long time to come back because they ended their in season with Achilles or soft tissues issues or some sort of hormonal imbalance or something like that. I don't know. It's a hard one to balance at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's probably one of the hardest jobs in the world to make money at. But I mean, the main thing is staying healthy, and that's like really hard to do when you're traveling, especially if you're a Southern Hemisphere athlete. I think we just have to travel further and there's less big races for us. But yeah, I guess for me going forward, and what I decided this year is like, I wasn't going to get caught up in chasing series. I was going to stay closer to home because that's where, you know, I have my support system and I have the medical professionals that are helping me get back on track. And there's still plenty of other Ironman races outside of the pro series for me to do and kind of get a bit of confidence back, honestly, because my confidence was absolutely through the ground at the end of last year.
Yeah. Well, awesome to kick off with Geelong, and really only in the back end of the run, you lost a couple of places. And I wouldn't say, do we want to talk about this? I wouldn't say that 70.3, you'll do it, but you're better at the full distance.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, all my 70.3s have been like okay, but nothing like spectacular, you know? I mean, so basically at the end of last year, we figured out, well, actually not till the start of this year, I got diagnosed with reactive hyperglycemia and also with like,
of course you did,
fatigue and post-viral IBS. Yeah. After I did a diabetes test, and for those that don't know, you drink like a glucose solution and you get your tested for your fasting glucose, then an hour in and 2 hours in.
Yeah.
And by the time I was 2 hours in, my blood glucose had gone down to like 1.5, which is like basically you should almost be passed out. Which I did not feel very good during the test. And so that was kind of the first test that they were like, oh, okay, like something actually isn't quite right. So then I had to go to some specialists, endocrinologists, etc. So I've been on like a blood glucose monitor for the last 4 months. And I did go on some medication for a while, but unfortunately that medication stunts VO2, so it's not good for athletes. but it's also all been linked to my gut health. So when I got sick last year, that I think like my gut was just stripped when I had to take all those antibiotics.
Yeah.
So that's been a process of just trying to build back my gut health. And then as that's happened, my blood glucose has started to stabilize a bit as well
Nice.
as like a few diet things that I have changed to make sure
Yeah.
that not going super high in races and then going low, because when I go high, that's when I get that GI distress.
Okay.
Because my body doesn't want me to take any more sugar in, essentially.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying that Geelong was like the first race where I felt like, I had that under control, and you can see from my blood glucose data during that like it was fine pretty much. So that means that it's ironically, or coincidentally, I don't think so, the first race where I had like good sensations, where I felt like I could really like push properly on the swim and push properly on the bike, and then fade in the last 5Ks of the run because I went out too hard for my current fitness. But and then get another fourth place, which has been like the theme of my career, is getting a lot of fourth places, I think.
Yeah, but that's a real positive, and maybe going to the full distance where the relative and absolute intensity is just that little bit lower, you might be able to find that little sweet spot of grams per hour that suits you, that doesn't challenge the GI absorption as much, and maybe you find that you make even further progress in South Africa.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's kind of crazy because I literally had to start off when I came back to training on like 10 grams of carbs per hour, which for anyone listening, I would not recommend to do that yourself. But it was like I had to start from 0 and build myself back up. And I think at Geelong, I managed to have like 80 an hour, which is still like
nice.
a bit on the lower end for me. But so like, and now since Geelong, things have still been stable. So I had a big key session last Friday, which I had like pretty close to 100 grams an hour, which is kind of about where I would want to be. I wouldn't go much higher than that. So, and I actually felt like I was absorbing it and didn't have any GI distress. So that's really nice to not have to worry too much about that now.
Yeah, and certainly South Africa, not always known for being super, super hot, but I'm sure you've got aspirations to get back to Kona. So not that everyone wants a super hot day in Cairns, but it would be nice to then also see progress in Cairns and taking in that kind of amount per hour in the more hotter temperatures and humid temperatures of Cairns.
Yeah, definitely. Because one of the challenges for me too is getting enough fluid in as well, because that can sometimes cause GI distress for me. But I think when I'm okay, like when I'm actually healthy, I'm actually better in the heat relative to other people. But yeah, my nutrition sponsored Precision Fuel and hydration have been helping me a lot with this. I'm doing a lot of research into the reactive hyperglycemic in athletes, because there's not actually a lot of research in like high performance athletes and how it affects them and what you need to do around fueling. So it's kind of just been a learning process, because I literally had no idea what your blood sugar should even be like normally as a normal person. So just figuring out what's normal for me. But hopefully I'll be good to go in the heat at Cairns too. I think I would like a hotter day, because I think it'll be a good test, even if I'll hate it while I'm out there. That's what everyone says. And Cairns can turn it on. Like Cairns can equally match Kona in terms of heat and humidity on its fieriest days. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely felt the humidity massively on the bike last year, which I kind of can sneak up on you, and then you get on the run and you're like, I have not had enough fluid or salt or whatever. So it can definitely turn it on. I probably am going to have jinxed myself now, and it will turn it on, and I'll be like, why did you say that on the podcast?
Well, you blame it on me. That's it. Look, it's really awesome. Yeah, well, I'll be there. I'll be in Cairns. So if you see me on the sidelines, you go, yeah, we should never have had this conversation. But it is awesome to see you back healthy and moving in the right direction. I'm sure you're looking forward to those full distance races. And I know I was saying it tongue in cheek that you seem to have been learning life's lessons along the way, and that you're trying to give everyone the opportunity to learn what not to do through your experiences. But from your academic perspective, it doesn't surprise me that you've published a paper and its title is An Exploratory Survey of Education Needs and Preferences Regarding Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport for Female Triathletes. And what I really love about this, and their coaches. I think that's a really important piece to discuss here. So this is what you talked about. It's all of a sudden academia becomes a little bit more interesting and easy to do if you're doing something that you're really passionate about. So talk to me about the paper.
Yeah, so I guess like my PhD, when I first actually pitched it, was about trying to figure out initially about how many triathletes might be suffering from relative energy deficiency in sport. And then I kind of pivoted because I'm also from an education background, and also I'm just we were kind of thought about it and talked about it a lot with my supervisor panel, and we know people are suffering from RED. You can see it, like people having stress reactions left, right, and center within triathlon, within running. It's definitely happening out there, and even anecdotally from talking to a lot of other female athletes I race with, athletes I coach, and other coaches. Like, I can't tell you the number of conversations I had with coaches or athletes where I talked about my experience of REDS and coming back from it, and they would go, "Oh, what's REDS? Like, I've never heard of that." And these are athletes who have been in the sport a long time, and coaches who are coaching lots of athletes. So basically, I wanted to find out what I thought I knew anecdotally just from talking to people in an actually scientific format. We developed this survey and sent it out to the triathlon world. And it was my supervisors actually couldn't believe it when I got it back and I told them that we'd had like 800 responses, and they were like, "What? No, there's a glitch in the system."
Because that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. So, and for most, like for people who don't know, in research, like having 1,000 responses or something for a survey is like a pretty big deal. So, it was like, this just confirmed to me though that there's this need out there. If these female athletes want education and they want to know more about how they can look after themselves so they can perform better and have longevity in the sport and have longevity in life. And like, interestingly, only 30 coaches responded, which could be a whole host of reasons why. It could be because they already know about it and they didn't bother filling out the survey. It could be because the way the survey was sent out had less reach to coaches, but that's kind of an interesting finding in itself, I think, anyway. So this was the first study in my PhD. Most PhDs have 4 studies, and my second one was like basically a follow-up to this study, but was an interview. So it was longer in duration, kind of picking the participants' minds a bit further and getting a bit more in-depth responses. So in this second study I did when interviewing coaches, a really interesting finding was that a lot of them were maybe a bit worried about being wrong. So like that bias they potentially place on themselves, or they don't want to get something wrong because they're in a position where they should know, I think. So that also could be of maybe played into why we had less responses. But yeah, the results from the paper are really interesting in terms of like, obviously this is all self-reported, so it's can't be said that this is for 100% certain, but the female athletes were reporting, up to 50% of them were reporting symptoms of REDS. And I think one of the scariest findings, which I was actually surprised about, is that 74% of the female athletes thought it was normal to lose their period during a high training load. which is, pretty concerning, because obviously, for those that don't know, like your period is, natural period is a sign of health if you're not on contraception. And when you're suffering from energy deficiency, so not eating enough food for your energy output and your normal physiological functions, like your period is one of the first things to go, because it's not considered an essential need from your body. And then pretty closely followed after your period is your bone health, because the hormones you get during your period help you build and repair bone. And that's why a lot of female athletes have stress reactions, and also male athletes, but their hormones work a little bit differently. That one's definitely a bit of a scary one. And one of the questions we asked coaches and athletes was like if they could define what relative energy deficiency in sport is. And only 11% of athletes could actually give a comprehensive definition of what it was, and 16% of coaches. So, which is also still like that thing that we obviously, so these athletes and coaches know about it, but they don't know, if that makes sense. Like they can't fully understand it or comprehend how it affects them holistically, I think, and then that flow-on effect to performance is quite disconnected from the responses we got from that question.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, if we expand this out to the male population, I'm not asking you to confirm what you do or don't know about the male population, but, you know, like you mentioned, the menstrual cycle or absence of it is the first real indicator. A lot of men may not have something so obvious. We exist in a fog of fatigue. Testosterone levels could be through the floor. There could be a whole host of other things going on as indicators that they could be suffering from low energy availability or REDS as well. So we dare I say it, I could imagine that in the male population, there may be an equal percentage of either unawareness or coaches maybe reluctance to have those conversations because they're not asking the right questions, or they've never asked those questions because they don't believe that's an area that they need to get involved with. Because I do think there's a spectrum of coaching offerings out there based on what people want to know and what people just would like to pretend that they didn't know. So when you look at the results from that study, if you coach yourself, Penny, like there's people that you'll interact with as a coach, and then obviously you've got your own personal experience as an athlete. What are your major take-homes as to where we can improve in these areas based on your academic research?
So this would kind of be probably taken from both studies, the first and second one, the second one being the interviews. But I think the main takeaways is that people really do want education on REDS, and they want to learn, especially athletes. And so just being able to develop education resources that they can work through at their own pace, I think is the way to go, so that they can be informed. And then maybe if they do have a coach who doesn't know as much, or when they're interacting within the community, they can say, hey, I can see that you ate one muesli bar on this 5-hour ride today. Did you know that this could lead to X, Y, Z? And, I think, unfortunately, we talked about this before we started recording, but that culture around having to look a certain way to perform well, for males and females, I think is definitely still there in the sport. I was having a chat to Hannah Berry the other day about, Hannah Wells. Is she Wells or Berry now? No, she's Berry. Yeah, she's back to Berry.
She's Berry,
about she's arguably one of the best endurance athletes in the world at the moment, and her and I both get comments all the time that we look too big to be triathletes, or too muscly to be a triathlete. And I think the big takeaway for me was just getting away from that language of what people should look like to perform well. It's in the numbers and the metrics and how you feel in yourself as to how you can perform well. And actually, if you're doing the training and you're fueling well enough and you're following those basic principles of science, research-backed science, then you will get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, yeah, it's just like going back to the basics and like that simple equation of calories in versus calories out, and for training. And also I think one thing that people often don't think about or forget is that, just for me to go, and if I was an athlete, just for me to sit on the couch or like do a normal office job, I still need to maintain my everyday bodily functions, which is like, for the average person around 2,000 calories a day, give or take, whether you're a female or how much your body weight is. And so like you need to include that as well as your exercise energy expenditure when you're thinking about how much food you need to eat. Because, and you talked about that before, Bevan, like that brain fog is insane. Like, and I had that like when I was in the really bad depths of having RED-S, there's absolutely no way I could have been doing a PhD like I am now, because I couldn't think like outside of training. I was doing okay in training, but my day-to-day functioning in life, I couldn't think properly. I was struggling to even have like go out for social stuff because I was so fatigued and so like brain fogged, because I just didn't have enough energy for my brain to work, let alone for me to exercise properly and adapt to the training I was doing.
Yeah. Well, look, as I mentioned to you at the beginning of the interview, I said, where there's still a lot of work to be done in this space, because we've been talking about this on our podcast for a number of years now. I'm thinking 5+ years. I said to you beforehand, if you went and looked through every episode I've ever done, that low energy availability and relative energy deficiency has probably been the most consistent topic that we've come back to. And your survey that went out, which I can't remember when that was fully completed and published, the study, it shows that there's still work to be done, because there are still, whether coaches are giving the wrong information or not getting involved enough, and I'll put my coach's hat on and say I don't think enough coaches understand how detrimental this is, and that sometimes they're contributing to that because they're the ones that prescribe the work which sucks up a lot of the fuel that people take in across the course of the day. And so that's an important piece for coaches to understand. So I'm glad that your research is not just saying to the athletes, this is a problem you need to solve. I think coaches have a huge responsibility of understanding this fully and being invested enough to create change as well, or at least if they can't, because our job is not to be the dietitian or nutritionist if we don't have the qualifications. It's about where we need to go to get mental health support, dietetics or nutrition support, as well as us being there to support the positive, healthy, holistic environment these athletes conduct their exercise in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the biggest problems potentially within the coaching space is that is that coaches giving advice outside of their actual scope of practice or their knowledge. So if you're a coach out there and you don't know about this, like that's okay. Like you can go away and research it yourself, but you can also refer an athlete on if you're not sure what's going on. So if you have an athlete who's experiencing these symptoms, then you can refer them to a sports doctor, refer them to a dietitian. It's not your job necessarily to diagnose them, but being aware of these signs and symptoms is really important. And also, like this second study I did talking to coaches, is a lot of what came out with the coaches is especially with the female athletes, is they felt uncomfortable having conversations with them around body weight, around their menstrual cycle. So I think like teaching coaches the communication skills to be able to have those conversations and normalizing the fact that it's okay to talk to a female athlete about that, as long as you approach it in a kind way and from the lens that, hey, I'm inquiring about this because this actually affects your performance. So I need to know about it, basically. And once we start normalizing that more, I think that will make a big difference and create that two-way conversation with athletes and coaches, so that, we can stop, hopefully, as many people suffering from Rett.
Yep, I totally, I mean, we can give you the running into the kangaroo thing, which is a bit of bad luck. But I do know that from here on in, you're going to do and continue to do such great work in bringing that research out into the general population and disseminating it in a way that we can all understand. So we know where the rest of the season's going for you. So we're off to South Africa, we're off to Cairns, and, fingers crossed you'll be back in Kona performing to the best of your ability. Where's your research going from here?
So I'm currently in the process of just doing some edits on my second study, which is under review at the moment in the European Journal of Sports Science. So I'm hoping that's going to be out in the next couple of months. And then, so basically the crowning jewel of my PhD will be an education resource for female triathletes and coaches of female triathletes. And we're going to test that and see if knowledge has changed pre and post, but also the big one we want to try and test is behavior change to see if these athletes and coaches are changing their behavior. That's kind of once this second study is published, and then I have another short, it's called a narrative review, basically collating, tying both the studies together about how we can best educate athletes, because it hasn't really been done in sport before using a multimedia format, which is what I'm going to be using for the education tool. Ironically, probably a podcast or some form of hybrid thing. So watch this space. Hopefully that education resource will be ready next year, I think, for us to test. Then just write it up, and then just write a however many word 15,000 word thesis, and then I'm done. So pretty easy, really.
Simple. Yeah, simple. Yeah, absolutely simple. Well, Penny, that sounds fantastic, and we'd love to get you back on the podcast when you're closer to getting that all out there and help our listenership understand where they can go to get that really well-informed information. But as I said before, it's so good to see you back smiling, happy and healthy. Geelong, couple of Ks short, but I'm sure you've done some good training before you get to that preferred distance of Ironman in South Africa. So we wish you best with the training, and I hope to catch up with you and cheer you on in Cairns in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.